by a lack of current, but I prefer current. So, George, thank you for your question. Thank you to all of you for being here. And it's a pleasure to do events and be in conversation with people in Colombo. And in terms of inspiration, I think, I'm lucky at this festival to be with some of my favorite writers. I think I read Funny Boy at a formative moment. I also, very much admire the work of Michael Ondaatje, Ramesh Gunasekara, and in the United States, there are particularly a lot of women and femme writers who are of Sri Lankan origin and whose work I'm happy to be in conversation with, to have like a really excellent set of peers.
Professor Jha.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, thanks again. As Sugi said, this has been such a lovely festival. Thank you, Ashok, for inviting me to this, and George for moderating this, and my co-panelists, whom I'm so excited for this conversation. My inspirations, I would say, I was a journalist growing up in Bombay. So some of the earliest literature we read was British literature. So there were people like Enid Blyton, whom now, she's problematic, and we discover that her stories were really problematic. There was racist tones to it. But in terms of writing and in terms of imagining and expression that comes from women and storytelling, I think I was captivated by some of her stories early. But as a journalist, I was more captivated by the stories of the people I would be meeting. Like, I would travel into interiors of India, and there were incredible women activists who had never heard the word feminism, of course, but were in Orissa. There was a woman fighting against alcoholism in her neighborhood, in her village, and against World Bank projects that just came in without any sense of like local needs. Those kinds of stories, the Bhavari Devi, and the kind of feminism and that she brought about, So those were intersectional feminists who were doing actual radical work that were not necessarily feminist, but their stories are the ones that captivated me.
Hello, Colombo. It's so good to be back. I've been at LitFest in this marvelous, gorgeous, fabulous city over the last 40 years. And each time there's been an audience such as yourselves, engaged, informed, interested, and it's wonderful, wonderful, very jet-lagged as I am to be back. So thank you so much, Ajay Veer Singh, Ashok Ferry, for inviting me, and I'm honored to be sharing a panel with our wonderful friends here. Thank you, George. I just want to say the word feminism kind of annoys me. I think it's irrelevant, or should be made irrelevant, because it's already creating a category. I don't like the idea of being described as a woman writer, for example, or my books being treated somehow differently from other writers who happen to be men. So, loaded as it is, there's no question that women, whether or not they're feminists, have to deal with a lot of baggage. To that I always say, well, so do men. It's not an equal world. We talk about women wanting to change things. You talked about improving the world. Hell, it's not going to happen. It's not just going to happen miraculously. It's going to happen if men and women feel the same way about equality. It's as simple as that. The day we have a level playing field, which may look like a distant dream, the word feminism itself will seem so old-fashioned, dated, and ridiculous. I mean, all of us should take pride in who we are, what we are, and the categories that we are discussing today. Well, inspirations, as you asked me, have always but always been women. That's besides the point. It's because I connected to Kamala Das at a very early age. She was a rebel. She was one of us. I wasn't reading feminist views from the West. I wasn't only reading Steinem. I wasn't only reading feminist rule books about, a woman can have it all. No, a woman can't have it all. So let's not kid ourselves, but men can't have it all either. So Kamala Das was an early influence. I liked her spirit of just, knocking the doors and just walking in and saying what you wanted to say, unapologetically erotic literature, erotic self. She wrote very personal, the autobiography, which shocked all of India. And I said, yeah, I want to be her. I don't want to be anyone else. I'd love to have her courage. And there are the early Telugu poets going back many centuries. I read them in translation. And I said to myself, if those women could speak their minds and no one was there to tell them to shut up, I mean, this is the world that is my world. And I'm going to own that world and create that world. I'm not going to wait for anyone to create it for me. So yes, the influences were always women. They continue to be women. And also a lot of men who are actually women in their hearts and thoughts and minds, and a lot of women who are also equally men. So it's about equality for me, feminism.
Wonderful. In terms of looking at going beyond